Absolute pleasure. You've been on, mate. Legend of Aberavon RFC. For those who don't know you, 350 games, over 350 games for the club. Played loose head prop and part of the furniture for a long, long time at Aberavon RFC. Part of the dominant pack through the Simon King days, Chris O'Callaghan days, and probably some I haven't mentioned there as well. But let's get straight into it. Early doors in your career, how did you find yourself up in Aberavon?
It was a bit of a funny experience for me, rugby. It was never my first passion. I used to love doing weights and things like that. And Gareth Cooper, scrum half for Bath, British Lion. I was at school with him, and they said, "Do you fancy playing rugby?" And I was like, "Nah, it's not for me, mate. You know, I just want to play weights. I'm on the farm. I'm happy enough." And he said, "Oh, we have a couple of beers on a Saturday." I thought, "Oh well, we'll have a couple of beers." So, and that was under 16s. So yeah, I'd have a couple of, I went down, had a go in the under 16s in Pengoid there. Unfortunately enough, then I picked up a cap then at fever age group, which was about a year and a half into it. So no skill set. Well, you know that, Chris. No skill set with the passing and kicking of the ball or anything like that, but quite strong through them early years. And then I went on a tour then with the Crochets youth team. People know the Crochets are quite well. They used to be quite a big thing. They had the youth tour to South Africa for 3 weeks, which is great. You know, played with a lot of good people there. And Ken Parfitt used to do a lot of refereeing. He was sort of affiliated with Aberavon RFC, and he said they're looking for a couple of props. Do you fancy going down? And I was like, this is like I only started playing when I was like 15, 16, and then all of a sudden, then 18 asked to go down and play down Aberavon. And Hugh Reese, which is a fullback who used to play for Pencoy, he was a really good player, but he was asked to go down there as well. So we went down there together. So I was an 18, 19-year-old player rocking up outside Aberavon, and that's how I got down to Aberavon, really.
So did you play much senior rugby then, or was it just literally Aberavon was?
Aberavon was my only senior team, apart from when I went to Ponty for the year, or I went out to play in Ireland for the year after as well. So but like you say, my first taste of senior rugby was with Aberavon.
Well, before we get stuck into your days at Aberavon, let's you just spoke about it then. You went to Pontypridd after an initial spell with Aberavon. Well, I guess how did that come about? Your rugby career was obviously just shooting straight up, I guess, and a just reward then really going to Ponty. So just talk about your time there.
I think lucky enough joining Aberavon, like you say, and they've always been quite a forward dominant pack, so I was lucky to join in there and get a couple of starts, in there and get a few under my belt. Then I was quickly reaching up to 100 games. Eddie Jones was involved. He was with us then as a team management side of it, along with Steve. And he'd been with Ponty for a long time, and they were looking for a couple of players. They phoned me up, asked me to want to go up there. And of course, he was, you're 22 years old or whatever you are, 23, and you think, yeah, I'll give this a go. And again, it wasn't my first love. I never wanted to be a professional rugby player, and it wasn't set out like that. It was just, as I alluded to earlier, someone asked me to go and play rugby down Pencoy, then I got an invitation to play, for the Welsh under youth team and that, and then followed on. Then Aberavon, someone asked me to go to Aberavon. I wasn't looking for it, and then Eddie said, do you want a shot at Pontypridd? And these are all. It was all great, but it took a lot to get me there. Steve Jones is, obviously Steve Jones is a legend. He's the only reason I played rugby for so long, I think, is he'd be on my back saying, "Come on, Lloyd, you come and train tonight, you come and work tonight." I went missing for a few months in my first year in Aberavon around the Christmas period. Some people know me. I did used to go out a lot and enjoy myself. And unfortunately, rugby, again, not being my number one passion at the time, fell by the wayside, and but Steve Jones, unbelievable man, unbelievable for the club, and he just kept me, and he said, come back and everything. So I think I had about a 2 or 3 month spell when I was absent, and then I come back in, and then that was it. Then I put my head down and we carried on for a bit. So
going back to Ponty, I mean, no disrespect and no disservice to Aberavon. When was that? Early 2000s or late 90s?
I think it's 2001, 2002-ish, something around about that time.
Yeah, so you would have been rubbing shoulders with, correct me if I'm wrong, probably like the likes of Neil Jenkins then, and
Neil Jenkins was in Cardiff then, but obviously you had the Chief, Paul John, you had Steve Lewis was coaching at the time, and then Lynn. I went up there when Richie Collins was Richie Collins was the sort of coach. He went halfway through the season, and then Lynn Davis was coaching. Lynn didn't like me very much. He didn't know who I was and whatever. And you had Gethin Jenkins there, and from the start, even, he's a couple of years younger than me. He wasn't the best scrummager. However, he could run like the wind. He could kick the ball like an outside half, and he could do everything. And that was apparent then and there. And, back then, believe it or not, I was quite fit myself, and I was trying to keep up with him for a lot of it, but the skill set, like I said, I started playing rugby when I was 16, and he was just something else. And I think he had his Welsh A cap in the same year,
But
he was a Welsh A cap then.
Playing with those type of players, or players who were in the Welsh squad then, I guess, for me, because we come from the opposite scales, I guess, rugby was my priority. Rugby wasn't your priority. I would have been not starstruck, I would have been like, oh, loving it. But I guess that wouldn't have phased you then, being in Pont. You just played.
Not at all. You walk up, and like you say, there's certain players which got auras around them, like Chief, Dale. But he was amazing, took me, and you could see, I wasn't starstruck then, because I didn't actually follow the game, that much as well. It was like watching the internationals, but I wouldn't watch, Cardiff or any of them on the telly, So I a few of these people, but not everybody. And so I just carried on as it was, and it was one of them situations where, we had Brent Cobain lifting him in the line out, and of course he went on and he was international, and we had Duncan Bell there, and we had quite a few players there who were top draw, but like you say, you used to rock up every week, and if you wasn't the main team, you were a bit participated to, you was the whipping ball. And Brent in the line out, Brent didn't catch the ball, and albeit it was my fault in Lynn's eyes because I didn't lift him high enough in the line out. So I was on the ball again there. And but like you say, if I had to say, did I enjoy my time there? Not as much as I did in Aberavon. It was, like you say, I went there because it was an opportunity opened up for me. I enjoyed my time there. I met some really nice guys. However, I could see the gulf between, obviously Gethin and myself, just from skill set and his passion and his love for the game and his understanding. I want to be mate, Sonny. Sorry, my boy. So just his passion, his understanding, and all of them. So I found myself sometimes being there, thinking, there's a big gulf here. In the loose, in the tight, I could hold my own, probably the best scrummager there, and that's just me saying it. That was my game. In the weight room, hold my own, and even in the fitness training, but it's just reading the game and an understanding of the game at that level was quite, I found that quite difficult,
We'll talk about scrums in a bit because you can educate me in a bit. You went on to Ireland then? So what made you, obviously that's quite a big jump really, isn't it, for, I guess, what you're 23 then, jumping over the bridge, not over the bridge, over the sea.
So when I the year I left, obviously wasn't in Ponty anymore. That was the year that the regions began.
The 2000.
And I was very, so I was very, disillusioned by the game. Just wanted to get back to enjoying stuff, And I think, well, again, when you start being in them circles, you start knowing someone. People start asking you, do you want to come here for a year? Do you want to go there for a year? And I just started going out with my wife now at the time. We haven't been out long, and we just decided to have a change, And someone asked, do you want to come and play out in Ireland? In a third division team, a lovely place. So we went out and visited. It was stunning. It was, so we just said, we'd get away. And like I said, I used to go out a lot. So trying not to go out so much and enjoy that side of things and sort of, just enjoy what the other side of what rugby can give you. I've having to live and breathe rugby for the last 18 months before that in Pontypridd, because it was even if he wasn't playing on a Saturday, he was training on the Saturday morning, he was doing fitness on the Saturday morning, so he was living and breathing that. So just to go back, and then we had a lovely 4-bedroom house there. They were run by millionaires. They couldn't do enough for you, mate. It was just a brilliant thing. And then before I played for them, I was actually then picked up by Connaught only because of the CV was on the desk, and because I was working for them, they offered me a job going into the school, teaching the kids. I don't know what they thought I knew to teach the kids.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so because part of the Pontypridd thing is you had to do your intermediate and your level 1 and the one before that, the starter one. So because you have to go, part of what we had to do was go into the schools of the Pontypridd as well and do a bit of training with the kids. So it's just basically they set me up with a job with the Irish Rugby Union, and of course my name must have been on the desk somewhere, and someone said, look, we're searching for pops. So I went up there. Then I flew over to I think it was Edinburgh for the game there with them, and another home game. It was a long time ago, Chris. I can't remember too much about it. But like you say, so opportunities were there with them. So my name would probably be on their team sheet, for the history books there. But in Ballina, which is the team I played for, which was we really had a really nice time. We went 5 minutes from the coast, everything about it. They loved their rugby, but they enjoyed everything about it, So that was a great time. And then from there, then I got picked up by the Galwegians, which were the Division 1 team out in Ireland. They asked me to go there, and to be honest with you, I went from a 4-bedroom house and a job and everything there to living above the rugby club in this different team. And to be honest with you, I think I remember ringing Steve and saying, "What's happening, Steve?" And Steve saying, "You come home, Lloyd?" I said, "Aye." I said, "I'm thinking about it, Steve." And he said, "We'll sort you out a plane home now, come on." And then that was it, So, like I said, so, Steve is, like, I mentioned Steve a lot today. I expect, and the club, they've always been good to me, but Steve's always looked after me in that respect. And like I said, so I had 3 seasons there. I had a season or 2 away, and then I think coming back to 2003, 2004, I think I was just with Aberavon then till I'm trying to think. I think it might be 2013, 14, was it? Like, I don't know how long ago.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
When Jason come back, the year Jason came back.
2014. So, again, so you when you came back then, with the help of Steve, you would have landed in the Chris O'Callaghan days, I guess, was it?
I started off with Chris O'Callaghan. I was just coming to the end of the Chris O'Callaghan days then. I think, in the mix of it. So, like, again, Chris, different level of coaching than what I've ever been used to, and some of the team talks are still fighting me now, but to get the best out of everybody individually, as much as people say, he knew the sort of the gentleman thug sort of area of the game, but he knew how to get the best out of his team as well, and a lot of time for Chris as well. He very instrumental in our Aberavon pack when we used to be very dominant,
I remember, firstly playing against Aberavon, thinking, especially at the Tolba Athletic Ground, it was a genuine place that I didn't want to go because you boys were so big, huge pack, huge dominant forwards, ball carries, scrummaging. I just didn't like it at all. But I was fortunate enough then to come to Aberavon when Kingy came in, and I just remember being, like, you told a story earlier about you not talking to anybody, but I can't remember that with me, but you sat in a certain place, in the change rooms, and that was your
That was my place.
I loved it because I remember coming on match days, or some people would be sitting there out.
and that's just the follow on to the old school days. Like when I went there, I was young, I played youth, but you weren't in that sort of rugby fraternity where you looked around, there were some very nasty men, and some people who just looked that way, and they were old school. They weren't full of weights. Do you know what I mean? They weren't full of anything like that. It was just basically you did what you was told, and you earned your stripes. Do you know what I mean? And I try to keep a little bit of that going, albeit in my own sort of way, But like you say, it was my seat. Footy will tell you different. It was his seat, I'm sure, but
when you finished there, it became chalky seat, and then Rheon said it's his seat now. And I'm telling you, Rheon sits there, and he's taken, and it's quite funny really, because I guess Rheon was your understudy, and so was Chalky probably as well. But and Rheon is, well, not you're totally different as players, but his ways are exactly the same as you, and obviously he's learned that through you, and like you said, it's good.
And that's what we try to do. We try to keep traditions going. Try to keep the sort of area, like, it is competition for your seat, and when you get there, it's yours and you look after it, type of thing. That's the mentality of it. Is that's where I hang my shirt up. That's where I put my bag. If you want it, you earn it. Do you know what I mean? And then you can call it yours. But until I step aside or you take it from me, sort of mine, you know. And
no,
we all laugh and joke, and people like I said, and we joked about it earlier, and I know if Tony watches this, Tony Edwards, he'll say the same. I'd be walking along the side and he'd be talking to them, and he'd say, "Oh, you don't talk to many people, Lloyd." And I say, "Well, chances are they won't be here that next year." So there's no point in me getting to know their names. After the first or second year, I know they're here to stay. But I've seen so many people come and go. But, you know, and that wasn't me being ignorant or audible. And like you say, we chatted earlier when I'm trying to name this 15, the further down the numbers go. So number 1, number 2, and number 3, I know a lot of them. As I get past number 9 and 10, they start to get a bit hazy, the people that I played with over the years. So I was normally looking down or breathing hard rather than looking what's going on up there.
Before we get stuck into the 15, I just wanted to talk to you about the scrums as well. And again, I know absolutely zero about scrums. I'm doing a bit of coaching, and I still will not ever declare that I know anything about them because I actually don't. So, but when I was packing down behind you, I just remember, and I haven't played it with any other prop that I had the same feeling for. You just didn't move. And we have a joke with the boys, because I think on a day, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, on a day where you probably thought, I'm not going to turn up today, the scrum just didn't move anywhere. But then when you did turn up, you just literally just scrums just blew them apart like single-handedly. And I just don't know, well, I'm not sure what the question is, but where's your mentality there? I think it's mental how solid you were as a scrummager.
I think that's where it came from. My first passion was weights. I've done a lot of lifting weights and that's keeping your back straight, you know, so deadlifting and things well before I ever played rugby, you know. And I think when I came down in 1998, I think it was only me who was doing weights. Do you mean so? You know, looked around the Aberavon, there's all strong men, hard men from the steel company, or, you know, weights wasn't a thing. And then obviously, to hold your position in our Aberavon pack, it wasn't good enough at that time to be anything other than a top scrummager, do you mean, or whatever. And scrummaging was my thing, you know. Like I said, I didn't have the skill set. I wasn't a ball runner so much, I mean, I wasn't. But the tight game is what I did. And I believed, and a lot of us believed at the time, is the game sometimes won and lost in that front row. You know, regardless of how many tries were scored, you know, I think how many pushover tries we had, that would be interesting to start to find out. Do you mean, because if we had a scrum in anyone's 5-meter line back in the first, I know, early part of my career, and that's not just me, we had a good pack, you know, we were probably pushing over, and we had no choice, because, you know, we had Dan Hawkins making us push it over, you know, telling us, well, we had to go, keep pushing, keep going as a scrum half, you know. So it was that, you know, you've got personal battles, I'm sure you have as a flanker, but when you're actually physically, you know, actually head to head with somebody, and that is your physical battle, that is there to be won. You know, it was one of them situations where the scrummagers changed so much. We used to dive in at each other from over 1.5 meters away, you know, and you had to win a collision, and then after the collision, you know, it was a test of strength, and it is. It's a, for another word, I know, it's pissing contest, if you know what I mean. I'm stronger than you, I will. And sometimes it's even hard when you're supposed to give on your side, give on your side. So, you know, to give like yourself, if you had to go up on the loose head or up on the tight head, not many loose heads or not many tight heads want to take a step sort of backwards to allow the other one to go up, because it would look like you've taken a step back. So, but like you say, again, you know, we had some good players around us, and that was what we worked on. Chris loved the scrummaging session. Chris O'Callaghan, we'd be up there for hours in the muck covered. And then after we finished on the machine, we go toe to toe then, and our scrummaging session then, that's their factor. So, yeah, I think you go to what your strengths were, and that was my strength, and just kept doing it, really.
Like I'm so thankful I came to Aberavon, because, like I said, I looked at rugby totally different before I came, and then when I muddled in with you boys, you know, at the time it was you, Tony, Anthony Edwards, Wellesley, Chris Wells, Footy, just monstrous men, like, you know, big front row, and scrums are just so easy. I just remember how, for me, again, as a flank against that first phase, was just, you know, a bit of a breeze, to be honest. It was just amazing to have that asset in your team. So I think that's
and with the scrummaging as well, you know, we only as good as second rows. We've always had some really good second rows as well behind us, and they had no choice; they had to push. Do you mean, because they would have ball against? Do you mean, not just off myself? You know, the other side heads and the hookers. You know, like you said, excellent scrummaging hooker, Chris Wells, brilliant. We had a massive front row, with me, Paul Bree, sometimes, just a big dominant front row. And like I say, if you can give the edge on that type of thing, up on your loose head, up on your tight head, it gives you that extra yard to get towards the outside half, whatever. So we've done a lot of work on that. So yeah, it was one of our strongest weapons early on.
Key question here now: do flankers actually help props? Maybe not for you individually, but do they help?
I think they do. They do help. But you have to keep reminding them that they're there as well to push or to stop you. So, but we also know you had a difficult. It was basically the tight five, and is doing the donkey work. But of course, you're damned if you're doing, you're damned if you don't. I suppose as a flanker, because if you don't get the way you need to be in time and you're busy pushing.
Exactly. Right.
I think, like you say, because we've done a lot of work on it, yourselves knew when you had to dig in and hold the scrum, and then you knew when you had to fly away. So I'm trying to be diplomatic there. If I have to say they had a lot, I'd say probably not. But what I'm trying to say is,
good answer. Right, let's get stuck into your 15, mate. Start from fullback. Right. So on you can do the talking.
So like I said, back in the day, when I first went there, there's a lot of players I've forgotten about, or you come and go and you see a thing. But the standout ones for me, I suppose, and some of these players have played elsewhere in the pack, but this is why I like them in the team. But I like them as 15. So the three that stuck out for me was obviously Ricky Price. I'm not sure if everyone remember Ricky Price. He was there before you.
Yeah. He
was there for a while. He played a bit on the wing as well. He was a good solid player. Good, a typical Aberavon player, if you know what I mean. And you had Liam Gard who went there. He played anything from I think outside centre, wing if we were at doing anything. And when Liam was on it, he was a really top class player, but he wasn't consistent enough to always be there. Sorry, Liam, if you do watch, but I love Liam. But obviously, I think for me it was Paul Bamsey. He was there basically from 1998 when I was there, and still there as I was leaving or as I left. So I think he's probably another one who went there and stayed there for such a long time. Good servant to the club. And he was pretty solid under the high ball, and I suppose not knowing enough about what backs do, he was always seemed to be part of a
so Paul Bamsey
team. Yeah, so that was my Paul Bamsey fullback.
Wingers,
I come and stuck here. Because I got 11s and 14s, right? Now I don't know who plays 11 and who plays 14.
Don't worry about it.
I'll put them all in the pot. So I think I put Carter's, obviously, Carter's has been there a long time, and he was a try scoring machine. But we've had a few. We've had Lee Abdul. I'm not sure if he was there before you. I expect Lee Abdul. He was there. He spent a lot of time. We had Sam Greenaway as well, who was there in my early days, and we had Darren Griffiths. They were the four that stood out for me along the time. So if I had to go, probably with a servant of the club, it would be Darren Griffiths, because he was part of the old school when I was there, and he stayed for a while. And I'd probably go with Carter as part of the long setup. With the Abdul and Sam Greenaway, they were only there for a shorter period of time, and even though they were prolific try scorers, they but I had to go with
even Carter and Darren Griff. What was his nickname? Darren. Was it? Did he have a nickname?
Who was that?
Darren Griff.
He probably did. Darren, he shaped his into that.
But they were try scoring machines, weren't they?
And I say something about someone who didn't do weights. He was like a ball of muscle as well. Again, I don't know anything about technical wingers, but give his all every game. And they're year in, year out, really. So yeah, I like Darren, and I think Carter's, because obviously, he was just prolific to score and try. He didn't beat anyone. He had gas to burn, didn't he? So plus.
Agree with Carter's, mate. Yeah. Okay, centres inside and out.
Oh, here we go. Centres again. When I went there first, I couldn't tell you who was there, mate. I tried looking it up, and I was like, because it wasn't something like you say, the names and everything like that. But Barry Maddox was there for a long time when I was there. Barry. I like Barry. Unfortunately, Paul Morgan, who's not with us anymore, he was there for a length of time there. Nice player, Paul, skillful. And then I suppose to the towards the end of my playing times, we had Will then, Will Price, and
Still going.
I still think, to be honest with you, out of all them, it would be between Barry Maddox for me and Will. And I just think, I'd probably give it to Will as because he was a more technical player, and he was a really good outside centre for me.
Will Price's quality, mate, still going. So underrated. I don't even know why he hasn't been picked up regionally wise.
And I think obviously why he didn't radar on my radar first, because we had a lot of the guys in there, Reece Webb, Will, all from there, and you don't think they're going to stay. They're thrown into us to have a few games, pick up a bit of time, but Will did sort of suit our way. We were a lot better team when Will was playing. In the second half of my career, I if I was going in the first half, we'd be Barry Maddox. Yeah. But obviously, Will then come along, and technically, because they're in the academy, they're that much better the players. Do you know what I mean, in terms of like skill set and things like that? He seemed to have it all. He could run harder and he can run outside players, and he seemed to have it all. So.
Okay, outside centre, inside centre.
Oh, we've been blessed with some good inside centres, but the Aberavon way, I call it, would be your Darren Ryans, David Hawkins. But we also used to have a guy, Scott Leighton, who
Kiwi.
Yeah, Kiwi, come from Hawke's Bay. I think he captained Hawke's Bay against someone, which is a well-named match, and they done well against them. He was playing outside half with us before Jamie came. Jamie came then, and obviously Jamie Davis is Jamie Davis. So he moved over and he was playing centre. So, but again, the Aberavon way, I'm going to go with Di Hawkins, to be honest with you, just because I don't think he used to go past 12, to be honest with you. When I was playing in the first 6 or 7, 8 years, he used to get, if it got past George, that was lucky. Yeah. But then if it wouldn't go past, then Di Hawkins, because he'd come on that crash ball on the inside, and then we'd go again as forward, pick it up and go again. And so I think for me, and sorry, Scarf, I mean, again, he was the same ilk again, but I think
was Di that good? That crash ball, I didn't play with Di, I played with Scarf.
It was very, very much similar to Scarf, but Di, he just used to, I think it's because, like you say, he didn't go backwards very often. He'd come up, and people knew what he was doing, but he still made ground and everything like that. But I just think, for me, because I think it's just because I played so often with him, he had so many games in that position. And again, I don't really know much about the backs, Chris, as you know. But like, if you talk about someone who had it all, then you've got Scott Leighton, because he could play outside half, and he could smash people in the centre as well. He could smash people outside half. So yeah, that was difficult as well. But I think because I only played with him for 2 years or 3 years, 2 or 3 seasons, I think it has to go with Dave Adai. And he was a good quality player for Aberavon. He's a funny guy, just good to have in the changing room, really. So
I can imagine. Happy days. The organisers, 9 and 10.
I mean, the problem is with number 10, you can only talk about one man, can't you?
Yeah.
And that's,
right. He was at Aberavon the same amount of time as you were, I guess. So
give or take a year or 2 years, I think, and probably longer, because he stayed on longer than I have. So he's probably there longer. I mean, Jamie, I think he smashed all the records early on. Anything within the half, he'd kick it. You just, suited our game well as a forward pack, trying to grind out the penalties. Just awesome, just. And then Chris O'Callaghan couldn't wait to tell us every week about what record Jamie's gonna beat this week if he scores 10 points, or what record that's gonna beat, because he loved his stats, Chris. So yeah, Jamie, and again, a local boy down there, and he did, he just loved Aberavon, he loved the club, and again, another one I didn't know how he didn't go any further, but again. But Jamie, you can mention, Garland was there for a while when I was there, and I know he come back. We've had a few, but I think, to think of a different name other than Jamie in a number 10 shot would.
You can't do it.
No, can't do it.
9. I guess there's
9. We've had some class 9.
I can imagine who you're going to take.
We got some class 9. You've got to mention Rheon Webb. He had a little spell with us. Did I think he was going to be as good as he was back then? Probably not. I wasn't thinking, because we'd seen people come in the academy and they were shipped out, but he was class, a good player. I love Pritchie, and he's still going now. I think he's still going now.
Still going.
Yeah. Good player, good solid player. Love David. you know, and then Dan Hawkins then, you know. And Dan, you know, he just epitomised us as well. You know, he didn't want to go far past the pack as well. You know, they chip it out. So I think between him and George, you know, they love scoring tries off the back of that scrum. So he made the game easy for me as well, Dan.
Yeah.
Lloyd, go there, push here, do this, do that. You know, you just generally, and that's why I like Pritch as well, because Pritch would be the same, organising me all the time, constantly. And
vocal player, wasn't he? I remember playing against him as well, just constantly chirping, going away, which is a good thing.
Chirping all the time. I think Aberavon, we didn't come alive sometimes until we were down to 14 men. You know, not many matches we played a match without losing a man or finishing. And, like, you know, that's when we'd have to, again, keep trucking it up. And you just constantly, like, we got pissed off with him just as much as, like, the other team did as we did, because you'd keep on to us. But I suppose looking back now, you know, that's why, you know, he organised us well. And so it has to be Dan Hawkins for me.
Dan Hawkins, Jamie, Hawkins, David, Will Price, Carter and Griffiths with Bamsey fullback. Nice backline that. Let's start a prop then. We'll start a loose end and work towards 8.
Like you say, blessed again in this area. We start with Rheon. I'm glad he's gone to good things. You know, he was always destined. He's a good quality club guy as well. Fun to have in the change room. Brilliant guy. But didn't really play that much with him, and he was quite raw and young when I was there. And he probably had to put up with a bit of nonsense being like behind me, and especially behind Chalky, because Chalky could give it out as well. Like Neil White, you know, Chalky. Again, he would probably be next on the list. You know, good player, good clubman again. Same ilk as me, loved winding up the youngsters, loved down the crack, loved the joke. But obviously, it's got to go to Mike Footy. Me and him had a long time to and fro in, and I could see the desperate every time. Like I said, it wasn't my first love. I loved the club. I loved playing rugby, and I did want to get picked week in, week out. But I'd look across, and every time he'd read out the team sheet and he wouldn't get picked, he was like someone that, you know, punched him in the face. You know, he loved playing. He loved the game. You know, he played a lot of tight head, and I used to rib him for it. You know, because I say you're not good enough to get into the loose head slot. You was over across. You know,
not like you, mate.
He did go last, so you know he'd have a bit of ribbing. But to be honest with you know, he must be up there with the caps as well. You know, for the club. I mean, he must be the 300s easy. You know, so it's a good testament that, you know, me and him stayed there for a long time, and although it was a competition, it was a healthy competition. We got on really well, me and Mike. So Mike for me.
Who said? Well, yeah, just go across, go to hooker.
Again, difficult one. The 3 names that stuck out for me: Jason Hyatt. I was there, obviously, when Jason came. Jason actually took upon himself to punch me in the face when we were playing against Leslie once, and I let him know when he came back that he didn't drop me, and his punches went very hard. So, but like you say, I was very young then when that happened, and like I learned so much from Jason. You know what I mean, old school hooker. He was in between that really technical area, as well as, you know, old dog as well. You know what, doggy type. But then you had, you know, Chris Wells, amazing to scrummage with, good player. If it was down to scrummaging on his own, it'd probably be Chris Wells and Jason. But then you had to throw in Mark Breeze into the mix then, who could play rugby as well. You know, scrummaging probably not as strong as the other 2, but, you know, he's like probably another flanker on the field. So I have to give it to Mark Breeze, because, you know, he was just a class rugby player. You know, again, I know we lost him for a bit, but really class player.
Happy days, yeah, good choice. And the tight head. I can't.
Tight head. Well, we've had a few of them as well over the years. Starting back, we got Greg Dix, which I know from, used to play for Pencoy, Dixie, and we had Mark Thomas, brilliant player in regards to in the club and everything. If he could stay on the pitch very long, you know, he'd do well, but he had a tendency to get a few yellow cards to Tom. And then we had sort of the newer sort of breeds, and we had Clatworthy, Andrew Clatworthy, Paul Breeze, and then Anthony Edwards. Again, if it was for scrummaging, you'd have to go for Tom or Paul. I love Paul, and again, normally packs would like to see me, Chris Wells, and Tom, or me, Chris Wells, or Paul Breeze. We just quite big and quite intimidating at the time. But Anthony Edwards come then and frustrated. Sort of number 12, isn't he? Who put on a bit of timber, like to drink too much to be a 12. So then they thought they'd put him in the back row and realised he wasn't meant for the back row. And then he had to come straight into the front row with us then, with the Donkeys, and realised he had everything. But I remember walking the change rooms, and he told over me. He come over to me and said, "You don't like me very much." I said, "I don't really know you, mate." And he said, "Oh, you don't remember playing against Tom Mowell, and you told me I was the worst prop in the world, and now the referee should stop it before you're going to get hurt." And I was like, "No, mate, I can't remember. I remember playing against a terrible player up there. That was you." Right? And he said, "Yeah, that was me." He said, I contemplated giving up the game after you said that." And I said, "Well, look how far you've come now. Look, I'm talking to you."
Look at you now.
And then we sort of reiterated that conversation, because he ended up being my best man at my wedding, and we're lifelong friends, me and Tony. So like you say. So again, sorry for everyone, but for me, it was Tony Edwards. Do you mean we played a lot together, and albeit different players. He missed his opportunity to go to Bath. Through not being able to breathe in scrummaging. If you could breathe when you're scrummaging, it helps. And he used to blank out, and you had to go for tests because you forgot to breathe, or you're pushing too hard. And unfortunately, Tony lost it. I remember he was down for trials for Bath, and he just, I don't know. I think he must have been putting it on just to stay, because he felt at home in Aberavon. But no, good player, and we had some nice times there as well.
I definitely enjoyed some night outs with you and Tony. We won't speak about that. Second rows, the Boiler House.
Wow, another wealth of talent. And our captains, it seemed to be that captain. It seemed like you were looking international level, was the captains in that Boiler House sort of position. And we had good ones with us, Early on, we had Paul Clapham, who went on, to different things after I was. So I only played with him for 1 or 2 seasons. Really good player. Like playing with him. Then we had Merv Meredith. I don't know if you remember Merv. From Lloyd. He'd run across the field for a fight. You know what I mean? And he was just that old school Aberavon player. Hell of a laugh, good boy. Like playing with him. And you had David Owen as well. Really good player, Dav. Good captain as well. But there's two that stand out for me, and that would be obviously Chris Gittins being the one, good captain for us for years. And I suppose Ian Moore, you can't leave him off a team sheet, can you? You can't leave him off a team sheet. I actually spoke to him early today, because I was a bit worried about some of these names, and have I forgotten anyone? And he said, to be honest with you, Lloyd, I've got to do one of these as well. And
as well.
So
Chris Gittins, my experience with Chris, great player, not questioning that. You must have been like as captain as well, that mellow. He captained me, but he kind of had that ability to calm everyone down a little bit.
And to be honest with you, that was me. I know we had the motivational stuff, and whatever makes you motivated. I wasn't one of these ones who had to run around the change room, headbutting the wall before we go to the game. When you're talking about Chris, he had that way about you. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he wanted you to do. He could talk to me and get me to do what I needed to do. He could command the line out. And just go to show you haven't got to shout and scream to have that authority. And he did. We won. I think our line out. I'm going back. Our line outs were pretty spot on at the time without scrummaging as well. So, and Chris was just again, solid. And people wouldn't think so, but he was as a second row, he was solid. He locked it out, which gave us the platform as well to have a good scrum as well. So not only was he there as captain, he was doing the donkey work as well.
Yeah,
but
expand on Bud if you want.
What do you want to say about? He wasn't the best at scrummaging, which he let me know he was the reason why we did, but he weren't. And let me tell you something, Ian, you definitely weren't the reason why we had a good scrum. But like you say, again, what a player, he had no right. He didn't look like a rugby player. He didn't look like he should be doing anything there. But week in, week out, in 100%, day in, day out, you know. Yeah. And just a joy then to be around as well. It made you feel like, you know, couldn't do enough for you. Yeah, well, he didn't have no choice. I'd have him up to my carpets, whatever he could do. You had no choice. That you done. No, really, really top guy, and you know, it was a pleasure to take the field with you. You know,
definitely. The back row boys, 6, 7, 8.
Oof, here we go. We started number 6 then. Yeah, obviously we got going back to when I was there first. Well, we had Chris Kingsey, again, good player. He was there for a while when I was there. And we had Natano Tia there for a while. See him hit people. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen him hit people, is a game against rugby that's on YouTube there. And just Google that and you'll see him smash.
That's off a line now, isn't it? Is it off a line out?
Yeah, off a line out, yeah. And just like annihilated someone. So that's there. And then you've got Darryl Lennon. You can't leave Darryl out there, you know.
Yeah.
Again, for me, all of them are the same ilk. Put their head in places they shouldn't. They had no right to do. So for me, it would have either been Natano or Darryl, but because Darryl was there the longest, I think, you know, and I played the game. And being the type of guy he was, I think he was a bit like me. You know, we didn't start till late. It wasn't his main passion in life, you know, to start off with. He wasn't one of these ones, I don't think, that started playing rugby when he was 4 and that, you know, because if he was struggling because he had no idea what he was supposed to put on the pitch, but he just knew that was the ball, and that was my job to go and get it, and he did that quite well when he was there, in fairness to him. So really good guy. I love playing with Darryl, and again, he had an understanding when I wanted him to push, he pushed, and so that's what we needed. I suppose, like, we're going to go on to number 8. I mean, you got Richard Morris, and like I could talk about Nathan Strong as well again, but when Nathan came to us, I think he played all along the back line. You know, I think if we talk about now number 8, we got to be talking about George. He commanded that jersey all through the time I was there. You know, and that was a long time. I think I was there 16, 17 seasons in total. You know, prolific try scorer. Probably most in the club. He's up with the wingers, all overtaken most of the wingers.
No, Carter pipped him.
Yeah. So that just goes to show. And I think half of them he used to get them for the pushovers trim, so I'm going to take some of them off him. But you know,
exactly. You should, mate.
we should share them out a bit more. But again, Nathan as well, cracking rugby player, you know, Strongy. But again, that was but it wasn't more to the end. I suppose that was the second chapter, you know. But Richard was there through it all. So obviously Richard Morris, number 8. He enjoyed as many people for the other team as he did on his own team. I mean, the amount of people he injured on our team in training, you know, even though we should always train 100%, but sometimes, you know, you get down to about 85%. You just it's a cold, wet Tuesday. You know, you've just done a load of fitness training, and then you're up on the mud patch, and George just wants to smash you. Do you mean? And that's all he wants to do.
Test the rucks, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
see if you're actually paying attention and just smash you. You had no choice. So, yeah.
Okay, Richard Morris, trigger, and open side.
Open side then, obviously, again, another area we've been quite blessed with. So, early on, we had Howard Merritt, H. Yeah. Howard, he was a really good thinker of the game. You know, he's a good player. I liked Howard. Then we had Andrew Tomo. I think no one else had a man of the match when he was there. I think he was man of the match week in, week out. Proper, like, you know, put his head in anyway. Really good player. And then I also liked them when Marvin Thomas. Not sure if you remember Marvin Thomas.
I know Marvin. I played in Bridgend with Marvin. Yeah, he's good.
And Marvin, I was in Pencoed Youth with Marvin as well. So I know Marv for a long time. And he was another one, really good rugby player. I like Marv. I don't know why he didn't take it to the next level as well. But he seemed, and of course, then we got yourself there, Swank, as well, which loved being around. Always like laughing and joking, which I liked, you know. Not normally at my expense, so it was just good.
I would have done that, would I?
so it was always good. Like having a laugh, you know, didn't take yourself too seriously, but, you know, I give 100% on the field. So not just because I'm talking to you now, but you've got to be my choice.
I'm honoured, mate. 16
well,
years in the club,
you know,
so
I think what you've got to think out of rugby, which I never did, is I never took it too seriously. My main motivation was getting home to my wife and kids, safe. You know, a lot of people took losing bad, and we do take losing bad. You know, but the main thing is we go again the next week, don't we? You know, and we're all safe, and that's it. And I think once people got upset and they got over it, you know, that's what made us. We had a laugh, we had fun, you know, we enjoyed ourselves, and
definitely did.
That's what I'm saying. You can't take yourself too seriously, can you? It's not all bad.
Mate,
that's my team.
That's a lovely
team.
I'm all playing that one anyway.
You're in there. You're in there. Well, that's because I've forgotten too many people, but you snuck in. And to be honest with you, mate, and Andrew Thomas was class. I think if I'd played him couple more seasons, you know, he would have snuck in just because. But like again, I'm all about longevity, people staying with clubs, showing, you know, if you can go on and better. I don't believe in like leaving Aberavon to go to Carmarthen and Quins, or I don't believe in going from Carmarthen and Quins. You were all in the same division. Stay, make the club great, and it's a payback because Aberavon were amazing to me. You know, give me jobs, help me out, kept me going. Like I said, time and time again, you know, I'd have a phone call. They'd alter my money, Chris, so I'd come training more often, as you know, just to motivate me to come training, and you know, we all laughed and joked about the money, you know. But I think if I'd come down here for nothing, I know a lot of you wouldn't believe that. Like, but
I remember just you turning up. We hadn't seen you again. Talking about your month spells and stuff, and you turning up with your boots in hand and thinking, hey, he's back. Yeah. You know, which is a nice, pleasant surprise actually. But
I think you see, like rugby players, you know, very often I didn't have a bag. I'd have my boots in my hand and I'd walk into the change room, and then, like, you know, we had excellent. And I think people don't talk about this. You know, our backroom staff were amazing as well, through the physios that kept the players going, and you know, we had, you know, the beating as well. You know, putting our kid out week in, we out getting us prepared and stuff like that. You know, so. It was a club, you know, and everything about it was great to be in. So I think, you know, you won't have to turn up with the boots. They give us a towel, they give us everything else we needed. Just get on and play rugby. Just play rugby.
That brings me nicely into my last three questions, which are set questions.
Yeah,
might be tough for you, but they're tough for everybody. First question is, what is your fondest or best memory of being at Aberavon? So it could be a game, it could be something else, but if you could narrow it down and said that was the highlight.
We had lots of little highlights, you know. Not winning the cup was always bad. We got to a few semi-finals. Not winning the cup, you know. I think a highlight for me was again, and you might know more about it. There's dates than me, and us finally beating Neath at the Knoll was a highlight, and us beating Pontypridd up in Pontypridd was a massive highlight. You know, I know they've done it again since, but I think there was something. Someone sent me something, and we were part of the original team that went up and beat Pontypridd.
Yeah, those first were the first in a long time, like 30
in a long time. But I suppose the highlight again for me was, I think, my children coming on with me for my 350th game for Aberavon. Just getting to the 350 games. I mean, it is not many players will now, because people do tend to jump from club to club looking for I'm not saying by the money. I'm just saying look for more game time or whatever. But like you say, when I talk about a lot of them players, you know, yourself included, to stay at a club for such a long length of time, you know, and the club's still doing really well. I mean, you know, we've never looked like being anything other than the top, you know, half of the table team or top 4 or 5, you know, teams. So we won the league as well there when I was there. That was a highlight.
Yeah, right.
Because when I went to Aberavon first, it was the exile year where Cardiff. So I was only supposed to go there as a Division 1 player, but Cardiff and Swansea went to play in the English division, and I think it was in 1998, obviously. So they called the Exiles. So we actually got promoted up then to play. We went to like Montferrand. That was an experience, watching that team run rings around us. I think it beat us 98-0 or something like that, you know, and just the experience. But I say it again, I know it sounds a bit sympathetic or whatever, but my main thing from that club. It was just the way everyone was, and Steve Jones typified that. You know, is he still doing a bit with the club now, Steve?
Yeah, Steve's still there, heavily working there, and still the team manager. And you're right, though. I mean, I think, like I said, people like yourself, people like me, people like Buddha, don't leave because they know how it's what they want. It's what they want from a rugby club, and that's their motivation, I guess, really. And
that's what I'm trying to say. They looked after us. You know, Andrew, John, amazing guy. Put his heart and soul into the club. People like that, you know, you think you should give them a bit back, don't you? And that's my memories of it. Even from then, you know, the ladies in the kitchen, you know, Andrew's wife, you know, do an amazing job for us week in, week out. I think that's the thing. I think it was a family team, you know, a team where people wanted to come and wanted to stay and be part of. So yeah, that's my fondest memory, I think.
Happy, yeah, definitely agree. Second question: if there was one team or an individual that you could play against that would make you, you know, maybe I wouldn't dare say anybody you feared anybody, but that made you slightly nervous, a team or an individual that you thought, oh, you know, this is gonna be tough today.
Yeah. The best scrummaging player I've ever played against was Julian White. Do you remember Julian? Played
Julian
Jen
English,
for a bit. I think he had a few caps for England, maybe.
Yeah, Lion. I'm pretty sure he's a British Lion.
Was he British Lion? I mean,
I don't know. I have to check that. Don't quote me, but I think he was.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't go backwards, but he was one guy I never nudged. I couldn't move. He was like, may as well be pushing the wall. He was and the second return leg was the same. It was that I was young then. You know, I was only 18, 19 years old. So it was I was a bit apprehensive about going to play against him. You know, and rightly so. Teams I didn't like to play against, like Narberth away on a Tuesday night because the games had been cancelled. You know, when you had to go down there, and they just, you know, that type of thing. But no, for me, playing against Pontypridd week in, week out, brilliant. Loved it. You get up for them games. It was amazing. Be part of them, Nice, you know, your thing. But like I say, Julian White, there was the guy who was probably the best player I played against scrummaging wise. So
happy days. And the last question for you, mate, and you'd be pleased to know it's the last one. If you could have your time back at Aberavon again, if you could do it all again, just at Aberavon, would you do anything differently? Is there anything you do a little bit differently?
I'd try harder, Chris.
Why did I know you were going to say something like that?
It was one of them situations, Chris, where I think, you know, when you have children now and you try to instill into them the values and the things like that, is what Aberavon taught me, is that typifies them values. And like you say, at the time, I was a coaster. You know, I'd come down, I'd do my bit, I'd leave, you know, and everything like that. But like I say, I would love to do my time over again. I would, and I'm not saying try harder, but be more professional then, and you know, that type of thing, and spend more time with the boys after the game, because I was because I lived so far away and there was no one up where I was. You know,
difficult. When I'm a couple of drinks after the game, it's difficult to get home, isn't it?
Well, some people have 5 and drive, some people wouldn't. And like
that's
I say,
still a thing, I heard. That's still a thing.
If that's the thing, I'm not sure, but it wasn't a thing for me. So, like I say, and you know, you know, you all know what I was like when I used to like to go out, but I didn't spend as much time, so I didn't sometimes feel not as part of the team. Do you mean I didn't perhaps try as hard to get on with some of the players, as well as, you know, like you all used to go out regularly together and that, like I say.
I mean, I think you're being a bit harsh on yourself there. I mean, certainly from when I got to know you, it didn't sound like you weren't a coaster. I think you earned your respect there. Everyone respected you, and you had that aura about you, and people just respected you. I think coasting wise, you were quite humorous with it as well. Like I said, you didn't take yourself too seriously. It wasn't as if, I'm not doing this today or whatever. I think it was in jest. I think it was quite good. I enjoyed.
I mean, you don't get 350 games like just coasting. I mean, you don't just turn up and get that. So, you know, I am not myself. But what I'm trying to say is that, like you say, scrummaging come easy to me. Get into Aberavon come easy to me. A lot of the boys don't have that opportunity, Chris, to get to that level. So if you think I started playing rugby when I was 16, and then 2.5 years later I was playing like for Aberavon, and then, you know, had the opportunity to go on, that doesn't happen to most people. So I think it fell in there easy for me. And then of course Steve looked after me, sorry, and I was in a good park, and just everything felt that way. And I suppose to do the hard work on and off the field, I love my weights, and I used to like doing a bit of, you know, the training, but I would have a laugh. Laughing joke was probably before the rugby for me. I was always like, you know, but the order was because you played there a long time. The order was, but because you were a servant of the team, and like you say, there wasn't many times I'd phone up and you wouldn't phone in sick type of thing. It was always come as soon as you turned up, you were there to do the job. But sometimes it was how can I say, the longevity of it all is sometimes I don't understand how we stayed there for so long. So it must be because, for me, it was because of the club. It was because of the respect they gave you and how they thought of you. And the supporters, I can't say nothing about them. You had that relationship with the supporters as well. Like, I mean, they would all be in the clubhouse after. They all knew you could talk to them all one by one. They'd all, So I think, as Aberavon goes, I don't think you'll find a better club, and that's why people do stay there. And even people sometimes can go on to better things. They find their way back to Aberavon. A lot of people do.
Definitely agree, mate. Lloyd,
that was a serious for me today, Chris.
Was it? Yeah, I haven't seen you like this before.
I know. I've got all old and sentimental.
I like this Lloyd, but I like the other Lloyd better.
You see it different me when we arrange a night out after this.
Yeah, we'll have to have a pipe too, mate. That was quality, and as again, mate, legend of the club. Love playing with you. Over 350 games is different gravy. So, well, congratulations there, mate, and that's a wrap for me.
Cheers, Chris. Pleasure, mate.